The husky wouldn't leave the crying baby. They thought she was making things worse. They were watching the only thing keeping their daughter safe. It started on a Thursday night, and it did not stop. Neve Halverson was 7 months old. She had been crying intermittently for 3 days. The rolling, inconclusive fussiness of an infant who cannot locate or communicate what's wrong. Her parents, Soren and Mila, had run through every checklist. Fed, changed, winded, temperature taken, position adjusted, white noise on, white noise off. The crying continued. Their Siberian husky, a 3-year-old named Kira, had always been calm around Nev. She would occasionally sniff the carrier, lie near the bouncy seat, do the ambient, curious monitoring of a dog in a house where a new person had recently arrived. Nothing remarkable. Then Neve's third night of fussiness began, and Kira changed. She stationed herself beside the bouncy seat and would not move. When Mila picked Neve up to feed her, Kira followed and positioned herself beside the chair. When Soren took a turn walking Neve, Kira walked with them. When Neve was returned to the bouncy seat, Kira lay down directly beside it with her head resting on the floor at the level of Neve's face. Soren thought it was sweet. Mila thought it was sweet for about 4 hours, and then she started thinking about what she'd read about dogs reinforcing infant crying through attention. She had read that in a parenting forum somewhere, a thread about pets and infant sleep associations, dogs that came every time a baby cried and thereby extended the crying. She mentioned it to Soren. He agreed it was possible. They moved Kira to the bedroom. Kira lay at the bedroom door and pressed her nose to the gap underneath it. She did not bark. She did not scratch. She lay there in the dark and read whatever came under the door and did not sleep. At 3:14 in the morning, Mila woke to a sound she had never heard Kira make before. Low, sustained, not quite a howl, a vocalization with the quality of direction in it, aimed towards something rather than released into the air. Soren was already sitting up. Mila was at the bedroom door before the second sound finished. Kira went directly down the hall, not fast, deliberate, the particular movement of a dog who knows exactly where it is going. She went to the bouncy seat where Neve lay and pressed her nose to the infant's cheek. Neve was not crying. Neve was quiet. The wrong kind of quiet. Mila picked her up immediately. The limpness was wrong. The color around Neve's lips was wrong. She said one word. Soren. The way she said it said everything else. Subscribe now. What the pediatrician found that morning will change how you look at your pet's behavior for the rest of your life. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. Neve's temperature at arrival was 103.8 and climbing. The infection, identified at the hospital as a serious respiratory syncytial virus complication that had descended into her small airways, had been progressing beneath the surface of what looked like ordinary infant fussiness. Her oxygen saturation had dropped low enough to require monitoring intervention. She was admitted immediately. Dr. Lin Tran, the attending pediatrician, that night reviewed the situation. She asked Mila to describe the week. Mila described the 3 days of fussiness, the crying, the difficulty settling. She described Kira. She described the way the dog had positioned herself at Neve's level and refused to leave. She described the bedroom door. Dr. Tran listened with the focused attention of someone filing information in real time. She said dogs detect elevated cortisol and the volatile compounds associated with respiratory infection. A dog positioned at an infant's face level with that kind of sustained attention is often reading oxygen saturation changes in the breath chemistry, changes that occur before any visible symptoms present to a parent or monitor. She paused and looked at them both. She said, "The dog knew something was wrong before the numbers showed us it was wrong. Every hour she was beside that baby was an hour she was running a diagnostic you didn't have equipment for." Has your dog ever stationed itself near your baby during a sick stretch and refused to leave? Tell us what happened in the comments. These stories belong to all of us. Neve spent 4 nights in the hospital. She came home on a Monday with clear lungs and a face like a small outraged peach. She was fine. She is still fine. She is now a toddler who calls Kira Key and brings her offerings of crackers with the solemnity of someone presenting at a religious ceremony. Kira met her at the door the day she came home. She pressed her nose to Neve's neck briefly, inhaled and stepped back, sat down, the composed posture of a dog whose numbers had returned to acceptable range. Mila sat on the floor next to Kira that night and put her hand on the dog's side. Kira leaned into it slightly. Outside, the bedroom door stood open. Mila had stopped closing it the night they came home from the hospital. She has not closed it since. Some things you understand once and they change the structure of how you live. If these stories matter to you, subscribe. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, especially the ones who kept watch at a door that kept being closed against them. The next story on this channel involves a dog who did something that looked exactly like aggression, until the family learned what he was actually tracking. Soren asked Mila weeks after they came home whether she thought Kira had known from the beginning, from the first night when the fussiness started, that something was wrong. Mila said she thought so. She thought the dog had been reading Neve's respiratory chemistry from the first change and had positioned herself at the baby's level to stay close to the signal. She thought about the night they moved Kira to the bedroom. The door pressed closed, the nose at the gap underneath. The sound that wasn't a bark and wasn't a whine that eventually woke her. She thought about the 16 minutes between when she opened the door and when the ambulance arrived. The math of what 16 minutes meant at the state Nev was in. She thought about it carefully, and then she put it down, the way you put down a weight you can acknowledge the heaviness of without carrying it indefinitely. Kira was 7 now. She was slower than she used to be. She still slept at the threshold of Neve's room. She would do it, Mila suspected, until she couldn't anymore. And then the room would be quieter in a way that would take a long time to get used to. But that was later. For now, the door stayed open, and the dog stayed at the threshold, and the number stayed good.